Hello and welcome to Narayana Eyes. I'm Pratik, your faculty for Daily News Analysis. Students, in today's DNA, we shall be focusing on 5 most important topics from the Hindu newspaper. Let us try to understand each of these topics one by one. But before we start with today's DNA topics, let's go through a motivational video because motivation is very important in the UPSC journey. So what is today's motivational quote? Doing simple things consistently, actually you have made a lot of progress. This motivational quote highlights the importance of consistency, remaining consistent. UPSC is a marathon. What matters the most is to remain consistent, right? So make sure you're consistent because consistency is something that will boost your confidence. In order to ensure that your mindset is positive, you have to ensure that you are consistent so that you get the motivation required for you to continue your preparation, right? So for all the students who aspire to clear prelims 2025, we have come up with a 110 days planner. You can download the application and download the planner, follow the planner, and this planner will ensure that you will clear the examination in the year 2025, prelims 2025. This study planner has been developed in such a way that it helps aspirant to ensure that he is covering each and every important part from every important subject, right? So please download the application, download the study planner and make the most of our study planner. And then for those students who want to appear next year or next year, we have come up with a 1 year and 2 year integrated prelims cum means. So all those students who want to be a part of 1 year and 2 year course can scan the QR code and then register yourself. Once you register, our team will get back to you with information, with details of the plan, right? So these are the details of the plan, right? Please go through it, and in case you need to more, please register yourself. Our team will get back to you with more details of the 1 year 1 year and 2 year integrated course. So students, in today's DNA, these are the 5 topics that we shall be discussing. And which are these topics? The first topic is taken from Hindu page number 11. Now this article explores the feasibility of appointing ad hoc judges. We have heard that the courts are burdened with many cases, right? And that's the reason. At the same time, there's also vacancies. So how do we resolve this problem of increasing number of cases? So this article will be highlighting on one possible solution, which is appointing an ad hoc judge as a High Court judge. The second article is taken from Hindu page number 10. Now, a dam project, right, which is being constructed in the Tibet province of China may cause concern or is a matter of concern to our country because the implication of this dam project, right, the experts believe that this dam project being built in China can harm India, can hurt India. Then we have the third article which is taken from Hindu page number 12. Now in this article, we'll understand what is free movement regime and agreement signed between India and Myanmar and how this helps people who live along the India-Myanmar border. The fourth article talks about or is taken from Hindu page number 1, and this article talks about the recent visit of Prime Minister Modi to USA and the agreement signed between both the countries with respect to trade, with respect to technology, defense, energy supply. So in fourth article, understand the importance of India and the USA relation. The fifth article is taken from Hindu page number 10. Now, given the war between Russia and Ukraine, right, which is causing geopolitical tensions. Recent phone call from the President of America to Russian President, right, it has raised a hope of ending the war between both the countries. So these are the 5 topics that we shall be discussing in today's DNA. So let us start with the first topic, and the title of the first topic is appointing ad hoc judges a viable means to reduce backlog of cases. This is the title of the first topic. Now, so in this article, we'll understand what is an ad hoc judge, the terms and conditions, right, related to ad hoc judge, and whether ad hoc judge appointment of ad hoc judge can reduce the pendency of cases in the High Court. And this is important for both prelims as well as means. So again, this is incorrectly mentioned over here, right? This topic pertains to Indian Constitution or appointment, right? This article pertains to appointment to the constitutional positions, which is the Supreme Court and the High Court judge. Now, such type of questions can be asked. In India, judicial review implies. So a question can be, ad hoc judge implies 4 options, right? So first, we'll understand what exactly is the context. Now, Supreme Court in the year 2025 allowed the High Court to appoint retired judges on an ad hoc basis. The Supreme Court allowed the High Court that they can also appoint retired judges on an ad hoc basis. Why? Because of the growing number of pending cases, especially the criminal cases. Now, this move or this decision taken by the Supreme Court revives the debate surrounding Article 224A, which allows the High Court to appoint retired judges as a High Court judge. But the question remains regarding the feasibility of appointing ad hoc judges or retired judges as a High Court judge. Whether this system will be efficient. Would this system help in reducing the increasing number of cases, and what would be the possible implication of appointing retired judges as an ad hoc judge? So these are the dimensions that we'll be discussing one by one. So first and foremost, what is an ad hoc judge? The ad hoc judges are temporary judges. They are temporary judges and they are appointed in the High Court. They are appointed in the High Court. Why? They are appointed because there is a problem. And what is a problem? Increasing number of cases or the vacancy in the High Court being more number of vacancies or increasing number of cases. This is a challenge. This is a problem. That's the reason the Constitution allows a High Court to appoint a retired judge as a ad hoc judge who is temporary. This term is important. Now, what is the constitutional basis? Article 224A allows the Chief Justice of a High Court. With the President's approval, and the consent of the retired judge. So let's say the Bombay High Court wants to appoint a retired judge. So the Chief Justice of the Bombay High Court, he takes the prior approval from the President and also the consent of the retired judge. Once the retired judge approves, that retired judge will be appointed as the High Court judge on a temporary basis. And this procedure is mentioned in the Memorandum of Procedure which was signed in the year 1998. It's mentioned in the Memorandum of Procedure. So once a retired judge agrees for the appointment, right, what the Chief Justice does is, the Chief Justice submits the name of that retired judge to the Chief Minister of that state. So the Chief Justice of Bombay High Court, he submits the name of a retired judge to the Chief Minister of Maharashtra. Now the Chief Minister, he submits the name to the Union Law Minister, forwards this recommendation given by the Chief Justice of Bombay High Court to the Union Law Minister. Now this Union Law Minister will consult the Chief Justice of India. So Union Law Minister is consulting the CJI before forwarding it to the President, because President appoints the judges to the Supreme Court and High Court. So CJI of High Court to Chief Minister to Union Law Minister to the Chief Justice of India. Right? Now then before forwarding to the Prime Minister. Now the Prime Minister, so it goes from Chief Justice of the High Court to the Chief Minister to Union Law Minister to Chief Justice of India, then it goes to the Prime Minister. Now Prime Minister advises the President whether the recommendation has to be accepted or not. So please remember the chronology. Prime Minister advises the President whether or not to grant approval. Now in the 2021, please remember this case, Lok Prahari versus Union of India case. Here the Supreme Court mandated that this recommendation given by the Chief Justice of High Court should be approved by the Supreme Court Collegium, which means the name of a retired judge that the Chief Justice of Bombay High Court recommends, this name has to be approved by the Supreme Court's Collegium. What is Supreme Court's Collegium? Supreme Court's Collegium is a body of 5 members, that is Chief Justice of India plus 4 senior most members. Now this collegium appoints the judges, or rather recommends the name to be appointed in the Supreme Court. This collegium, CJI plus 4 senior most judges, they recommend the names to be appointed as a Supreme Court and High Court judge. So when a Supreme Court judge is to be appointed, then the collegium consists of CJI plus 4 senior most judges. And when a judge is to be appointed as a High Court judge, then the Supreme Court Collegium comprises of CJI plus 2 senior most judges. So it's like for Supreme Court, it is CJI plus 4 senior most judges, and for High Court it is CJI plus 2 senior most judges, which means in this case Supreme Court said that the name recommended by the Chief Justice of Bombay High Court should be approved by the Supreme Court Collegium. Why? Because a High Court judge is to be appointed. Now, what is the appointment process? The process can be initiated when the vacancy in the High Court exceeds 20%. It is exceeding 20% of the sanctioned strength, or when more than 10% of the pending cases are old than 5 years, are over 5 years old. One, when the pendency exceeds 20% or when the pending cases are more than 5 years old. Then CJI, the Chief Justice of High Court, can think of appointing a retired judge as High Court judge, right? But first, the Chief Justice of Bombay High Court or the High Court should try to appoint or fill the vacancy. The Chief Justice of the High Court first should try to fill the vacancy. In case filling the vacancy is taking time, then he can appoint retired judge as the judge of High Court. Please remember this point. Selection process. So the Chief Justice of the High Court will create a panel of retired or soon to retired judges. So they will create a panel of retired or soon to retired judges. This panel will recommend the name. Then the Chief Minister recommends this name to the Chief Minister, Law Minister, CJI, Prime Minister, President. And this appointment process can bypass the Intelligence Bureau checks, which means if a person has to be appointed as High Court judge through elevation, that is from District Court to High Court, then the Intelligence Bureau verifies the information of that person to be appointed as High Court judge. But now to appoint a retired judge as an ad hoc judge, Intelligence Bureau verification is not required. Why? Because he has already served as a High Court judge. And what is the tenure? 2 to 3 years, right? And the appointees ranging from 2 to 5. So this is something which you can read by your own. So this is something which you can please download the DNA notes from the comment section, and then you can read this notes for revision. I hope you understood the basic concept behind appointing an ad hoc judge. Historical, only 3 ad hoc judges have been so far appointed in the history of a country. Post independence, only 3 ad hoc judges, not required for you to remember the names. And the Supreme Court, as a reason, has referred to this article 224A. Please remember the name of the article. This is important. That's the reason, as this article is not used more often, the Supreme Court referred to this article as dormant provision, which is simply lying or sitting idle. Now, what about the Supreme Court ad hoc judge? Now, when there is insufficient quorum of permanent judges, which means when the required number of judges are not available in the Supreme Court, then the Chief Justice of India has the authority to appoint a High Court judge, not retired, High Court judge as a judge of the Supreme Court. In High Court, a retired judge can be appointed as ad hoc judge. In Supreme Court, a High Court judge can be appointed as Supreme Court judge. And the appointment can only be made after consulting the Chief Justice of the concerned High Court and prior, which means the Chief Justice of India will take the prior consent of the Chief Justice of that High Court. And then the Chief Justice of India has to get the prior approval from the President. So if a High Court judge has to be appointed as a Supreme Court judge, then the CJI will take the prior approval from President and also from the Chief Justice of that High Court. And then the person who's the High Court judge to be appointed as Supreme Court judge should meet the qualification to be a Supreme Court judge, which again is mentioned in polity book. So please go through the basics of this chapter. Now, why do we need ad hoc judge? One, because of high number of high vacancy rates. So as of 2022, there are 14.4 judges per million, that is 10 lakh, which is way less than the sanctioned strength as per the international norms. Then insufficient judicial infrastructure. Now, to ensure that the judicial mechanism, the judicial decisions are efficient, it is important to have optimum infrastructure. But problem is we do not have sufficient courtrooms, chambers and technological resources, and this hinders the case management of the cases. Then inefficient appointment process. Now the appointment process of a High Court judge is lengthy. It takes months and years to appoint a High Court judge. That's the reason we need an ad hoc judge, right? Relatively appointing a ad hoc judge is, relatively it is easy or less time consuming than to appoint a full-time High Court judge. Rising number of appeals, which means the decisions taken in the lower courts most often are appealed in the high court. So majority of the cases or majority of the decisions in the lower court are appealed in the high court. So there is more number of cases lying with the high court. And government as a major litigant, which means government in majority of the cases pending in the high court, government is a major litigant, which means government is a party in the dispute. Government being involved in legal cases or legal battle. And that's the reason if we allow ad hoc judge to be appointed as high court judge, then there's a chance to reduce the pendency of cases. Why? Because we are appointing experienced judicial officers to look after the cases and dispense justice or resolve the dispute. So this is the reason why we need ad hoc judge. Now we'll understand benefits. What are the benefits? We have the utilization of experienced judges. Judges who have handled complex cases and who have a decent past track record. Second, expedited appointment process. Now, as we discussed that the appointment process for an ad hoc judge is relatively less complex than a judge to be appointed as full-time high court judge, right? So here we see that the appointment process is streamlined and this allows for quicker deployment of judge to look after the cases. Flexibility in judicial management. So the ad hoc judge allows the judicial management to be flexible so as to appoint a retired judge so as to quickly resolve the increasing number of cases. Preservation of judicial independence. Now, the ad hoc judges which are retired, they have completed their primary, which means the judicial career is completed, right? Now their judicial career is over, which means they are less likely to be influenced by external factors. Their judicial career is over, they are 65 plus now. So there are chances are less that they may or might be influenced by the external factors. And this allows the judicial system to maintain the integrity of the judiciary. So these are some of the benefits or advantages. Now let us try to discuss the challenges. First, again, it's complex appointment process, which means to appoint an ad hoc judge, you need the involvement of judiciary as well as executive. So please try to remember. The Chief Justice of High Court recommends name to the Chief Minister to Union Law Minister, to the Chief Justice of India, Prime Minister, President. Relatively, though the appointment procedure is less complex, but still it is complex, it is time taking. This is another challenge. Presidential approvals is mandatory, which means President has to approve the recommended name, which means the cooperation from the executive, that is the central government as well as state government, is important. Executive. Underutilization of constitutional provisions. Now it's not that it is not allowed. We already have this constitution, but this article has been rarely used. Why? Because of this challenge. Then the another challenge is financial burden. Now, which means if you are appointing a retired judge as high court judge, which means you also need to, the government has to spend more money, the salaries, allowances, support staff. This will cause unnecessary burden on the judicial budget. But the another problem is, even if you appoint, there are the staff is less, the courtrooms are less, and then the digital management system is also inefficient, and this makes the efficient functioning very, very challenging. Personal support. Now when you appoint a judge, you also need to provide him staff. With staff, stenographer transcribes the speech into writing, right? Secretaries and court masters. So appointing a retired judge also means you have to appoint a staff for that particular judge. Then challenges in attracting retired. See, once a judge retires, he either enters the private sphere or he starts his own practice, right? Opt for arbitration or independent legal practice, which is financially more lucrative than again becoming a part of the, let's say, the government. Ad hoc judges serve only for few years and they're barred from practicing in the same high court post tenure. So they practice just for few years and then once they practice, they're barred from practicing in the same high court, which means it is not appealing to the retired judge to serve as a judge of that high court, which means even for a retired judge it is not that attractive. Why? Because he can work in a private company, he can serve in a private company, so there are chances that the retired judges are not interested or may not be interested to work again as a judge in the high court. So what are the reforms? First reform, the Chief Justice of the concerned High Court directly recommends candidate to the Supreme Court collegium, which means no need for the the Chief Justice of High Court to send the recommendation to the Chief Minister, Law Minister. He should directly send it to the Supreme Court collegium. The Supreme Court should review and approve the recommendation, which means the Supreme Court should review and accept or reject the recommendation. Once approved, it has to go to the President for the approval of the President. And as stated by the Supreme Court in the Lok Prahari case, a 3-month timeline should be strictly followed. This is what the Supreme Court said in the Lok Prahari case. Second, reducing government interference, which means in the appointment we have to reduce the government interference, that is the role of executive should be reduced, right? So pre-approval mechanism from the government can be considered, right? And then no intelligence bureau clearance. We do not have intelligence bureau clearance for a retired judge to be appointed as a high court judge. Then again, these are the staff or logistical and financial support that the government has to ensure that the staff is provided, the necessary infrastructure, necessary staff is provided in order to ensure that the judicial system, the caseload management is efficient so that more and more number of cases can be resolved in less time. So these are the proposed solution. And all the points that we discuss is repeated here in the way forward. So please quickly go through it, right? So these are the same points. I hope you understood the first topic, right? Any questions? Please let me know in the comment section. The next article, China's dam project opens the floodgates of concern. So in this article, understand about this China's dam project, and this is important. Again, this is a part of General Studies 203, India and its neighborhood relations, right? So this is a question asked in the year 2017. China is using its economic relations and positive trade surplus as tools to develop potential military power status in Asia. So using economic relations and trade surplus, China is trying to emerge as a military power in Asia. In the light of this statement, discuss the impact on India. How will this impact India, right? So first and foremost, what is the context? China is planning a huge dam in the Tibet region, right? Now this has sort of raised concerns. Why? In India. Why? Because of the potential implication of that dam on our country, especially the fragile ecosystem which is adjoining the Tibet region. First and foremost, let us try to locate this dam on the map. So, I hope you are seeing this Arunachal Pradesh, right? This is China and this is the place where the dam is located. This is Tibet. China's Sangpo project will be world's largest. But we are talking about this Medok county, which is a place in Tibet where the project is being constructed. So, where is this located mega dam? In the Medok county in the Tibet region near the massive Yarlung Zangpo Gorge. So, please remember this names, right? So, this river, it takes a U-turn and then bends into Arunachal Pradesh, right? So, cost, this is again not important, and this dam, right, the objective of this dam is to produce 300 billion kilowatt hours of electricity annually. This will be 3 times the capacity of the Three Gorges Dam. The Three Gorges Dam in China is currently the world's largest hydropower facility. Very important factual points for you. This is important for the prelims examination. Please remember the Three Gorges Dam. Also, the new project that China is undertaking in the Tibet region, right? Now, what are the geopolitical concerns? Geopolitical, which means the implication of geography on the on polity or the relations between both the countries. So, India and Bangladesh fear reduced water flow, which means in the summer season, the dam will stop the water of the river. In the summer season, we need more water. So, the dam is storing more water. And during the monsoon season, when there is more volume of water in the river, the dam, they open the floodgates and a large volume of water gushes in our country and Bangladesh. So, dry season, there is no water. In the winters, in the monsoon season, we have more water leading to floods in our country as well as Bangladesh. And then the fertile alluvial soil will also be lost. Why? Because the water that is coming from China will carry the sediments, and the sediments, they replace the alluvial soil, which is very important for agriculture. Then the strategic leverage for China, how China will leverage this possibility of water weaponization. China will try to blackmail India. If India does not fall or does not listen to China, then they can use water as a weapon, not guns or let's say ammunition. They use water as a weapon or may supply, release more water, causing floods in our country as well as Bangladesh, as happened in the year 2017 during the Doklam standoff when China did not provide hydrological data. Every year there is an understanding that both the countries share mutual, or both the countries, they share hydrological data. So in 17 China did not. This is how China can weaponize water to trouble or put the lives of people in our country at great risk. It disrupts the fragile Himalayan ecosystem, especially the flora, the fauna, the people living along the Himalayan mountain ranges, right? Then it also harms the river biodiversity, agriculture and livelihoods downstream. And then this can also cause earthquake. Why? Because this project site in Tibet is on the tectonic plate boundary, which means it is prone to earthquake. So if the dam fails, it can cause massive earthquake in and around that dam project, which includes places in our country as well. Issues, what are the issues? First and foremost, China has not signed UN Water Resources Convention, Water Courses Convention, which means in case China is violating, or rather China is not abiding by some international norms, or China's action can cause, let's say floods in a country, we cannot challenge or we cannot bring China in the court. Why? Because China has not signed this convention of 1997, which means we simply cannot take a legal action against China. Next, absence of a binding treaty. Both the countries lack a formal agreement. India and China do not have any agreement with respect to the water that is shared or river that is shared between both the countries. Expired. Whichever memorandum of agreement or agreements were signed between India and China, these agreements are expired now, are not functional. Violation of international principles. China's unilateral action, right? China's unilateral action can breach the equitable utilization and no significant harm principle. The international principle says that when the water is being shared between two countries, the upstream country, in this case China is a upstream country, India is a downstream country. The upstream country should emphasize or follow equitable utilization. The water should be used equally between both the countries, and the action of the upstream country should cause no harm to the downstream countries. So if China takes unilateral action, releases water or stores water, they are violating international principles. Lack of regional mechanism. South Asia does not have any water sharing agreement. Now, contrastingly, India has a water sharing agreement with Pakistan, our arch rival, Indus Water Treaty. I hope you understood this topic, right? Now, the third article. The title is 22 gates allow free movement along the Myanmar border. So, we'll understand about the free movement regime, right? So, this again is part of prelims, right? It is more a part of prelims as well as mains, that is general studies paper 2, India and its neighborhood relations. So, question was asked on Northeast India. So, FMR is related to northeast of a country, especially the connectivity of northeast with the Southeast Asia. So, we'll understand what is this free movement regime. Now, so let's say this is India, this is Myanmar. Now, this is a political boundary drawn between both the countries. But there have been tribals living in this region. There have been tribals living in this region for centuries. This is a new political boundary drawn recently. But there have been tribal people living in this region for centuries. A line, a border has divided the families. In order to make the lives of these people easy, India and Myanmar allowed people, the tribals of this place, to enter into this place for, let's say initially it was 40 kilometers, it was reduced to 16 kilometers, which means this free movement regime, it facilitates the movement of people from one country into another. It facilitates the movement of one country into the another. So, as discussed, the free movement regime is a bilateral agreement between both the countries, facilitate people can cross the border of the country without visa. There is no visa required, right? So, implemented in the year 2018. Now, this allows connectivity, people can connect, then there will be trade. So, economically, the region may become prosperous and there will be cultural ties that will be preserved. Why? Because people in that area have been living for centuries. So as per FMR, individuals residing at the border need 1 year border pass for stays lasting up to 2 weeks. So they need 1 year border pass so that they can travel into Myanmar's territory, stay there for 2 weeks and come back. So this allows people to connect which are part of a larger tribal clan, facilitation of people, goods, trade, and this makes the region prosperous. So talking about India-Myanmar border, right? They share 1600-kilometer long border, right? So people who live along the India-Myanmar border, they share ethnic ties, right? Now the border passes. Now this is very very important for you to remember. So you have to remember the name of the states that border Myanmar. So as part of map reading, you need to remember all the states bordering which countries. So which are the states bordering Nepal, Bhutan, Pakistan, then we have Myanmar, Bangladesh, China. So if we see Myanmar, in the north we have China, in the south we have Bangladesh. So sort of the India-Myanmar border is sandwiched between China in the north and Bangladesh in the south. And Assam Rifles, one of these central armed police force that directly reports to Ministry of Home Affairs, the Assam Rifles have been entrusted with the responsibility of guarding the India-Myanmar border. Who? Assam Rifles. Now, this free movement regime has often been misused by the insurgent groups, by the militant groups, which essentially means that people have been using this agreement or this facility to smuggle arms, ammunition, drugs, people, human smuggling. So this agreement or this facility has been often misused by the military people or militant people, the insurgent groups, and this is causing border tensions along the India-Myanmar border. So this has become a big bone of contention for both India as well as Myanmar. That's the reason, right? That's the reason initially the people living in India could travel up to 40 kilometers. Now this limit has been restricted from 40 kilometers to 16 kilometers. Why? Because of misuse of this facility. So this is the India-Myanmar border. Now as of the recent development, 22 out of 43 crossing points between India and Myanmar are under the revised, they are now operational, which means they are functioning, right? So these points are crucial. Why? So that people can cross from one area into another, right? Which are the states involved? These are the states involved. So please remember the name of the states, right? So I hope you have understood what is free movement regime, right? Now students, it's time to understand the recent developments happened between India and the US, especially when the Prime Minister of our country visited USA recently, right? There were a few important agreements signed between both the countries. Given the tensions surrounding around the trade or rather tariffs imposed by the American president, this visit was extremely crucial to prevent tariff war. Tariff is nothing but tax, right? So let us try to understand this topic. So a question was asked in the year 2020, right, with reference to international trade. With reference to international trade. So let's try to understand the importance of trade between India and the US. Now we know that since the time Donald Trump became the American president, right, he's imposing tariff, that is taxes on the goods coming from other countries. Which means, let's say, a car is being exported from, let's say, Germany to America. Initially, the car costed, let's say, 100 rupees. Now, because of the additional taxes, the cost of the car is 150 rupees now. Which means people won't buy it. Why? Because the car has become costly, right? So, amidst this tariff war, the visit of the Indian Prime Minister was very, very crucial. Why? Because India does not want America to impose taxes on our goods, the goods that we export to America. Right? Now see, India has a trade surplus with America. What does it mean? Which means India exports more goods to America than America exports. We are sending more goods. So if we send 100 goods, America is sending 50 goods. We are trade surplus with America, which means we get more money, right? Let's say if India, and this is America, if India is exporting 100 goods worth, let's say, 100 billion, America exports, let's say, 50 goods worth 50 billion. So what is the difference? 50 billion. So India is in trade surplus of $50 billion. And with China, we are running in trade deficit, which means we import more goods from China than what we export to China. Now, so India also imposes taxes on the American import. Now, given America is reciprocating the tariff, India has reduced in the recently announced budget. India has reduced the tariff on the American import. If we do not reduce the tariff on the American import, even America will impose tariff on our goods, the goods that we export to America. So, United States is India's largest export destination. Largest export destination. Right? And the bilateral trade covers these goods: engineering goods, electronics, pharmaceuticals, petroleum products. Right? The India's exports have increased to America, but the imports from USA are growing gradually, right? So if I talk about the numbers, India's trade surplus jumped from this number to this number, which means America owes $35 billion to our country. America owes $35 billion to our country. Though the Indian exports have diversified, we are exporting more and more number of goods to America. America has been a key supplier of energy, defense equipments and technology to our country. Right? So you can please look at this number. So this is what we export to America: engineering goods, electronic, gems and jewelry, drugs and pharmaceuticals, petroleum products, mineral fuels and oils. And these are the products that India imports from America: the precious and semi-precious stone, nuclear reactors, boilers, electrical machinery, aircraft and parts, that is the defense equipments. Now, as I told you that in order to prevent tariff on our goods, the Indian government has reduced tariffs on the goods imported from America. Right? So, for example, on motorbikes. So, this is how India reduced the tariff on the imported goods from America, right? And despite reducing the tariff, just before 3 hours Modi arrived in America, Donald Trump, he still imposed taxes on Indian imported goods, on the Indian goods. He knew that Modi is coming in 3 hours. Still, he went ahead and imposed taxes on the Indian goods. Now, see, though trade tariff, right, dominated the meeting between America and India, right, it wasn't the case that only things related to trade were discussed during the recent meeting. No, the discussion went beyond trade, right? Went beyond trade, which means India and America also discussed cooperation in areas such as defense, technology, energy security, and geopolitical cooperation, which essentially means that there were other important issues that were discussed during the recent summit. For example, first is the defense and strategic ties. Now, India and USA are major defense partners. In 2016, right, America designated India with major defense partner status or title. This brings India and America close in areas related to defense. In areas related to defense, which essentially means that this designation that India is a major defense partner has brought India close to NATO allies. India's status is the same as that of NATO allies. Why? Because of the growing defense cooperation between both the countries. And we need more defense equipments. Why? Because we are facing a major risk from China, so we have to ensure that we import sophisticated technology so that we can counter the threat posed by China. Right? So there's a new defense framework agreement which is under discussion, and the framework or agreement aims at joint defense production so that the defense equipments will be produced both in India as well as America, so that people in our country get more jobs. There will be technology transfer so that India also learn how a defense equipment, advanced defense equipment is made, right? And also military logistics. US is linking defense exports to trade negotiations. So US is linking defense exports to trade negotiations, positioning itself as key arms supplier. India is a huge market. So America wants to leverage this huge market by supplying major defense equipments to India. Continued India-Pacific cooperation is important. Why? Because China is posing a threat in the Indo-Pacific region. As China is posing a threat in the Indo-Pacific region, right, cooperation with America is very, very important so as to safeguard our area of influence in the Indo-Pacific region. Next is technology. Now, recently, both the countries have signed agreement in advanced technology such as semiconductors, artificial intelligence, and space exploration. Right? So, if you see here, you can read by your own, but now India aims to develop semiconductors plant in our country. So that's the reason America and India have signed agreements so as to ensure that America helps India develop a semiconductor plant in our country so that we manufacture chips and export it to the world. Then America is also helping India with the Gaganyaan mission. Now this Gaganyaan mission, it aims to send the crew in the space, in the lower orbit of Earth. Then Starlink's entry into India. Now this is Elon Musk's satellite internet service. It's a satellite internet service, but India is sort of not comfortable to allocate spectrum allocation because of the security concerns. So Elon Musk, he wants to expand this service into India. Which service? Is satellite internet service. Now once we have this satellite internet service, we can connect the rural areas far more easily, right? Then we have energy cooperation, for example, the liquefied natural gas, crude oil, and coal, right? So again this is very, very simple. You can read by your own, right? So so America has prioritized India as a key energy trade partner. which means we are dependent on the Middle East, let's say for oil. Now we are diversifying our sources. In case America falls in a war, then we shouldn't be facing resource crunch. That's the reason we are diversifying our resources or sources by importing oil, natural gas, coal from America. Then both sides or both the countries are also collaborating in areas such as clean energy like nuclear energy, solar energy, wind energy. Now, along with the cooperation between both the countries and the agreement signed, India and America also discuss on some of the challenges. One is the deportation. Now we know that many illegal migrants in America were deported back to India. These people were of Indian origin. These people had migrated from India to America illegally, and these people were deported back. And the way they were treated was very, very shocking. So this issue was also seems that this issue was also discussed in the recent diplomatic talks between both the countries. At the same time, America is prioritizing, or Donald Trump is focusing on America first, which means he wants that the American company should prefer American people over the Indian people, or let's say over people from other countries. That's the reason Donald Trump is issuing less visas to people from other countries. As Indians, as more and more Indians are involved in the American economy or they contribute to the American economy, which indicates the fact that the decision Donald Trump would take in the future with respect to issuing visas could impact the people who wish to work in America, right? And then we have geopolitical and trade implication, right? So again, America first, which means Trump wants to focus on America, which essentially means that the cheap goods that they get from other countries, Trump wants to impose taxes so that people in America buy from the American companies. So if people are buying from the American companies, which essentially means that the manufacturing scale in the American companies will grow, which means more and more number of jobs, right? This is how he's prioritizing America first. So what do you mean by prioritizing America first? Which means he's imposing taxes on the goods from other countries, which means he's essentially following protectionist measures, right? So this can cause global, or this can impact the global trade dynamics, right? So this were some of the agreements signed between India and the USA, and some of the challenges that seems to have been discussed between both the leaders of India and America, right? I hope you understood the importance of a trade between India and the US. Why America is important? Because America is India's largest export destination, and we are in trade surplus with America. We discussed the key areas key areas that were focused, that is defense, energy, right? And then some of the challenges. Now the last article, right? Engaging Russia. Now we know that the Russia-Ukraine war is going on for quite some time now. The call from the American president to the Russian president has given a ray of hope to the people that the war may finally end. The war may finally end. Right now, this call from Donald Trump to Vladimir Putin was very, very important. Why? Because the war has been going on for years. It has devastated territories, killed so many people, and it is also causing geopolitical tensions. It is, stopping the supply chain. It is disrupting the supply chain. And if the war ends, it's a good news for the entire world, right? So now, break from Biden's Russia policy. The former President of America, Joe Biden, was extremely critical of the actions Russian President Vladimir Putin had taken against Ukraine. He called Putin as a murderous dictator, and there was no hope between America and Russia, right, in terms of ending the war. The tensions were escalating, which was causing global geopolitical tensions, right? So this hope, this call from the President of America to the President of Russia, it has given hope that the war may end soon. Ceasefire. Now this, they were almost both the leaders had a talk for 1.5 hours. It seems that the officials from both the countries would meet in Saudi Arabia to mediate and see how they can end the war. Impact on Ukraine. Now it seems that Donald Trump wants to withdraw American forces from Ukraine. Trump says that the Russia-Ukraine war is a matter, or let's say it's an issue between Europe and Russia. Donald Trump does not want to commit to the security of Europe. Why? Because they're spending billions of dollars in Europe or to safeguard Ukraine. And US Defense Secretary recently said that Ukraine is unlikely to revert to pre-2014 borders, which means in the year 2014, Russia annexed Crimea, which was a part of Ukraine. Ukraine is fighting to get Crimea back. Now, the Defense Secretary, that is Defense Minister of America, has said that Ukraine is unlikely to get Crimea back, which means America does not want to commit to the security of Ukraine. America says that Russia-Ukraine war is a matter of conflict between Europe and Russia, and America does not want to commit to the security of Europe. Potential fallout. What can be the potential fallout? The UA faces security and economic challenges. Why? Because now America now views Russian aggression as a European problem. They see it's a European problem, it's not our problem, which means the billions of dollars help that America was giving to Ukraine may reduce. Strategic implication, which means Trump's break from NATO-backed policies. What does NATO says? That anyone who is part of NATO, if they face any problem, America will help them. Now, Ukraine is requesting America to include Ukraine in NATO. America says that we are not going to include Ukraine in NATO. Because the moment Ukraine becomes a part of NATO, which essentially means that America will be involved in a war against Russia. Why? NATO, North Atlantic Treaty Organization. This treaty essentially states that if any country who is part of NATO faces a war from any country, then all the countries of NATO will unite together to fight against that country, that aggressor. So if Ukraine becomes a part of NATO, each and every country will be a party to the war. That's the reason US is refusing Ukraine to make a part of NATO. So these were the 5 articles of the day. I hope you understood each and every article. Now it's time to discuss questions. So discuss the viability of appointing ad hoc judges as a solution to the backlog of cases. Examine the challenges in implementation. Very simple question. In the introduction, mention or explain what is an ad hoc judge. Mention the constitutional basis. Then in the body of the answer, mention the rationale why appointing ad hoc judge is important. Then mention the benefits that the judicial system would benefit by allowing ad hoc judge to be or to work as a high court judge. And then finally mention some of the challenges that may accrue because of this provision, right? mention the 2021 Lok Prahari case of Supreme Court, right? So this is how you frame the answer. Now let us discuss the questions from the DNA from yesterday's DNA. Which of the following best describes the concept of gender budgeting? Allocating resources equally for men and women. No, integrating gender considerations into government policies and programs to promote equality, focusing only on women's empowerment in the workforce, providing financial support exclusively to women's business. The correct answer is option B. So very simple question. We already discussed the concept behind this, right? The next question. Which of the following statements about the IIP are correct? The base year is 2011 and 12. Yes, this one is correct. This one is correct. And the value of the base year always set at 100. The IIP is computed and published by the Ministry of Commerce. No, it is published by the Central Statistic Office. The IIP is segregated into three major sectors: manufacturing with the weightage, mining, and then electric. This one is correct. So this one is incorrect. This one 1 and 3. Option C is the correct answer for this question. Then the statements regarding constitutional provisions governing obscenity in India. Article 19(1) subclause A guarantees freedom of speech, but this can be restricted in the public order and decency under Article 19 clause 2. A law criminalizing obscenity must be justified under Article 19(2), which allows restrictions on free speech. This one is correct. Option C is the correct answer for this particular question. Then these are the questions from today's DNA. Please try to attempt this question. Open the link in the comment box, which is the DNA quiz. Attempt the questions and post your score in the comment section. Right? So on this note, we'll call it an end. Make sure you're hitting the like, subscribe and share icon. Thank you so much for watching.